Good evening. We'll call to order the Monday, June 27th, 2022 meeting of the Corte Madera Parks and Rec Commission. Rebecca, will you please take roll call?
Commissioner Charlie.
Present.
Commissioner Elson.
Here.
Commissioner Koenig.
Here.
Commissioner Miles. Oh, she's absent. Commissioner Phipps.
Here.
Commissioner McPherson. Is absent. Co-Chair Janowski
Here.
and Co-Chair Brown.
Here. Thank you. Before we start with those items on our agenda, we'll start with open time for public comment for items not on our agenda. Members of the public will be given 3 minutes apiece and can either raise a hand or email comments to publiccomment@tcmmail.org. Rebecca, do we have any hands raised or email?
Just a moment while I check the email. I'm not seeing any emailed public comments, and I don't see any raised hands from attendees online.
Thank you. So we'll close public comment at this time and move on to the presentations on tonight's agenda. The first presentation, item 3A, is Painted Bins, Using Children's Art to Keep Food Waste from the Landfill, an introduction by Jennifer Furon.
Hi.
Is Jennifer joining us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, welcome.
Hi. Hi, everyone. All right, I'll share my screen. And I just have to share my screen first. I'm not a professional at this.
You should be able to click on the share screen button and there you go.
Yeah, I just opened my presentation first, but you can't do it that way. All right, let's see. Okay. All right, so I'm here tonight to tell you or give you an introduction to this program that is going to be a pilot program this summer in Corte Madera Town Park. It's a public nonprofit partnership between Painted Bins, which is really just two people, Kathy Huber, my neighbor, and I, and Zero Waste Marin, Sustainable Marin, where they're our physical sponsor, and Strategic Energy and Innovations, which is an education program at Terra Linda High School, and the hauler, Mill Valley Refuse. So it's all of us to work together, collaborated, and also Neil Cummins School, actually. So big collaboration to bring this little program to the park as a pilot. It's going to be in Corte Madera Town Park. What they are compost bins. 8 of them are going to be installed in the park, and the city has purchased them. They will contain or be decorated with art that was gathered through an art contest that was conducted at Corte Madera School this spring. There were 100 3rd and 4th graders that participated. I guess I need to go through this. And the kids all, were taught about the importance of composting by their teachers, and they participated in the contest, and there were 16 winners chosen. So the kids' artwork will be on the bins along with a QR code that will talk about the importance of composting and global warming. So the food waste in the landfill is actually a big problem in Marin. We currently have about 15% of the residential waste is food waste, and it's going into the landfill. This has an effort to reduce that by putting these compost bins in the parks. It's calculated by Zero Waste Marin that putting these in the parks could be the same thing as reducing taking 8 cars off the road a year. So 8 bins would equal 8 cars off the road. And I have the calculations here if anyone's interested, but it's converting methane gas to carbon dioxide. So not that interesting, but that is what the calculation is. One of the reasons for doing this is to help the towns in Marin County, Corte Madera being the first, to comply with SB 1383, which is the new law to reduce organic waste in our landfills by 75% by 2025. So this is our little proposal to help do that. This is what the bins are going to look like. It's a little mock-up. That's not real artwork. They are 50 gallons, and they are going to be picked up by the haulers, Mill Valley Refuse. They'll be near the barbecue areas. There's going to be one that'll be a triple compost, recycling, regular landfill bin, but I'm not sure where that one's going. I don't think it's been decided yet. So I already mentioned this, that there's a pretty good environmental impact along with the educational impact and reducing the effect on people that live near the landfills. So I mentioned that we had collaborators. So it's the city, the schools, the haulers, and hopefully the residents who will be interested in doing this and educated by having the bins in the park. So Painted Bins is a nonprofit. We are just started brand new, and we're working with the other nonprofits that are working on sustainability issues in Marin County. The haulers are very supportive. The Valley Refuse is one of our big donors right now. We're planning on doing naming rights for the bins among the parents in the schools. We're planning on changing the artwork every year. So it will be an annual thing at the schools for both education and to maybe involve the parents and the community a little bit in helping with the cost of it. Kathy and I are the two people right now that are doing it. This was her capstone project for her sustainable MBA at the Presidio Graduate School. And she's got a lot of experience fundraising and nonprofit startups. I am a local artist. I also have a nonprofit startup experience here in Marin. I started with education for kids with disabilities, and I'm now working on sustainability issues as well. So that's us, and that's the project. Our partners, as I mentioned, Zero Waste Marin, the Strategic Energy Innovation, which is, Kathy's going to be working with them in the fall, doing education work at Cherylinda High School. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from the city, from the haulers, from Zero Waste Marin. They're supportive of the project. The kids were really cute. They had a lot of really, really lovely messaging. There was an art show at Corte Madera Town Center with all of the artwork, and it was pretty sweet. And the kids were very excited. So this summer is when the bins are going in. Probably not until late August. They're on back order, but they've been ordered. The artwork is being processed to reproduce so that can be installed on the bins when they get here. So we're hoping late August is when they'll go in. And Mill Valley Refuse again is the hauler. So that's it. We're moving ahead. We have a physical sponsor. We are accepting financial contributions, and Kathy and I are starting to get our friends involved. And we're going to be getting some food waste out of the landfill. Hopefully, that's the idea. So thank you. And I will unshare if anybody has any questions.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions from the commissioners before we open for public comment?
Sure, I do. Hi.
Hi.
I like this. This is great. I noticed you had Neil Cummins on there.
Yes.
You guys will probably open up as the years go by to.
Well, yes. Yes, I think the plan is, this was our first time, and we had good success with Corte Madera and getting interested in buying the bins. So we started with the elementary school there, and also had an art teacher there. So that was helpful. So yes, we're hoping to roll it out to more cities in Marin over the next couple of years.
Got it. So I was actually specifically asking about the other elementary school in Corte Madera. Just on the east side.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that then the next time we would roll it around the next year and do the other elementary school. Yeah.
Super. Great. And then I was pleased to hear you say that, the town was supportive and a good partner in this. Have you been working with folks about, just for example, when people rent space, they're having those barbecues, like the placements of the bins seems smart, but as sort of how any coordination about how the town communicates that to people that are renting the spots to encourage usage of it? The
only thing we've addressed so far is signage, and that was a recommendation of Mill Valley Refuse, and we're definitely going to have some good signage. Contamination can be an issue, so education is important. And I think that's something we would want to coordinate with the city on when the time comes. We haven't had any, they're not here yet, but yes, good point.
Super. All right. Well, it sounds great. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question about, that's very pragmatic, but what is the frequency of pickup and cleaning out the bins? Because concerned with animals.
So, yeah, so they are animal proofed and they're designed to be in this kind of setting. I personally don't know how often Mill Valley Refuse picks up at Corte Madera Town Park, but it would be on their regular pickup schedule,
Thank you.
whatever that is.
Any other commissioner questions?
Well, if I might, I suppose I actually might follow up on that, because one part of something being successful is if it doesn't have a sort of a negative effect, or seemingly a negative effect to those around.
Exactly.
So is there any, I mean, I wonder if there has been any analysis as to, and ideas about how that might be revisited if, for example, picking it up on the regular schedule
Isn't enough.
proved to be enough, right?
Well, I know that the owner of Mill Valley Refuse is really 100% behind this project. So I think that if there was an issue that the town discovered, I'm sure that we could address it with them right away. They're so far our biggest donor. So he's really behind it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we can open it up for any public comment or questions. If there's anybody online.
Okay, while I'm waiting to see if we have any raised hands from online attendees, I'll refresh the email. And we did not receive any emailed public comments. And I'm not seeing any raised hands from online attendees.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to the commission for any final comments, questions.
I do have one question. Has this been done anywhere else, and do you have any information?
It has. And the research for the bins was based on what's being done in Berkeley. They have these same exact bins at UC Berkeley. And they have 3 per station. I have these notes here. So you're the only person that's ever asked this question. And there's some at Yerba Buena Gardens and in the Castro. So there's some local evidence for the use of these bins. And it's apparently in Berkeley, it's working pretty well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's a matter of public education. And when they're there with the signage, if you see people approach recycling bins, and they're often, very confused about what goes where. And this will be really clear that this is where the food scraps go. And that in and of itself will be helpful. Between the messaging from the kids and the signage, it'll be very obvious. So I think they have messaging on the bins in Berkeley as well. Oh, and Sebastopol has them too. So that was the initial research, was drawn from those communities.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We'll really look forward to having these in our parks and seeing the success of the program. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3B on the agenda, which is an update from Superintendent of Public Works, Jamie King, regarding town trees.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Good evening. I'm just here to touch base on current events that are happening with our trees in the parks, and would love to share with you. As you guys know, we've had some drought issues and concerns, and so we took it a step ahead of of concerns, and so we had an arborist report completed in October 8th, 21, and the gentleman's name is Kent Julian, who is very reputable, and his report indicated that our current situation with the trees weren't actually stress related due to the drought. They were just issues that were related to diseases and seasonal issues that the way the trees were growing. So after reviewing the report, we removed several trees. 28 trees were inspected in the park, and then 9 trees were recommended to be removed. I know there's a lot of questions and concerns that people are thinking we removed the trees due to the drought, but that was actually not the case. So some of the things that we're looking at to possibly address the drought, we're currently working with Kent to get ideas to alleviate anything regards to the drought for trees. But like I said, there's no issues currently right now that are stressing our trees out. Vernon Santos, our supervisor in the park, is working with our guys, continuously checking our trees on a daily basis, making sure our trees aren't stressed out. We've actually changed our watering schedules to adhere to MMWD's guidelines. So we've managed to divide up our quadrants. Prior to all the drought issues, we had 2 different quadrants, and we were watering basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday being our rest day, or excuse me, Friday, irrigating Friday, Saturday being our rest day, and then starting the whole process over on Sunday. So now with the new guidelines, we divided up our quadrants into 4 quadrants, and basically watering only 2 days that are allotted. So upstate, I'm sorry, I'm having some computer issues. There we go. Okay. So we're staying on top of it. You know, it's very challenging every day to deal with this drought issue, but I can reassure you that our trees are very safe, and we're doing everything we can.
Great, Jamie, thank you for that update. I think a number of us were under the impression that it was a drought-related removal of trees, so it's good to have that clarification. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Thank you for that update. I'm curious if there's a plan to replace some of the trees that were removed.
Yes, obviously there's plans to replace a lot of the trees that were removed, but currently with the MMWD's guidelines, they frown upon that. They are approved if we can plant new trees and they can survive within the 2 days allotted, but I wouldn't advise that right now. So we are looking to do some kind of replanting once the guidelines are lifted.
Jamie, I have a question about the trees that had diseases. Were any of them the bark beetles or those other types of diseases that we should anticipate might spread?
Let's see. A lot of it was trunk decay. Nothing related to bark beetles whatsoever. I'm actually looking at the report right now. A lot of it was just decay that actually was over the years. And we have several species of trees in the park. You know, like I said, 28 trees in total. 9 of them were removed. Thank God that our redwood is still good, so it's still growing perfectly. No, so nothing really related to beetles or insects.
Great, thanks. Any other questions?
So I didn't, and Jamie, this might not be something that you're able to answer. Just wondering if in concert with talking with the arborist, if there was any dialogue about the rationale between instead of limiting the quantity of water used, limiting it by days. And the reason I ask is just that, you know, I understand if you do a large amount over a shorter period of time, sometimes there's more runoff. When you said redwood trees, it reminded me that they generally aren't sort of deep root drinkers, but it's more like fog and lighter things at the surface. So I just don't know if you've gotten any information, you heard anything about why it's a limit by days rather than quantity. And again, I understand you might not be able to answer that question, but if you are, great.
I wish that was my expertise, but I guess we're blessed to live in California where it's considered mild climate, you know, in regards to irrigating. And I know one of the things is fog does help quite a bit in the cooler temperatures in the morning, and then we hit the hotter temperatures in the evening or afternoon and towards the evening. But no, actually, I couldn't answer your question. I'm sorry. It's not my expertise. But I know that, again, we're trying to work as best as we can with the guidelines. And so that's kind of what we were looking at. Rather than applying a lot of water all at one time, we broke it up in 4 quadrants, and we're applying as much water as we can in the allotted time, because the allotted time is only from 9 a.m. You're not allowed to irrigate during those hours, 9 a.m. all the way to, I believe it is, bear with me, going through my notes. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You're not permitted to irrigate during that time. So looking at the size of our fields, we only have so much time to apply the water if you were to look at all the different stations that we have. So by doing so, like I said, we've divided them all up into 4 different quadrants. So that way we could apply a little bit more water, but breaking them up through the days that are allotted, if that makes sense.
Thanks.
Okay, if there are no more commissioner questions, Rebecca, could we just double check to see if there are any public comments or emails?
We did not receive any emailed public comments, and I am not seeing any raised hands from online attendees.
Thanks. Okay, then we'll bring it back to the commission if there are any other final comments. Okay, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate the update.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Okay, we'll move on to item 3C, the Corte Madera Children's Center 1-year summary by Rochelle Greckman-Dibley, Alex Duran Esparza, and Alex Poretz.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. And but I wish I was there. I didn't realize that I was going to be talking from home tonight and that everyone else was going to pretty much be there. So it's great to see everyone. And thanks for having us to come talk about the program. I'm just going to, girls, can you throw our little presentation up there for me? Excellent, thank you. So just a little background about the programs that we've run in the past, just to give you some idea. And I'm aware that some people don't know who I am. So hi, my name is Rochelle. I worked for the City of Santa Fe for 33 and a half years, mostly in the child development, child care program, of which there are 8 child care centers. And so when I took over for Ashley when she was on maternity leave, one of the things that we wanted to get together was opening an actual after-school childcare center. So Alex and I spent a lot of time when I first started getting that together, and that's how sort of we got to where we are today. So the town has always had some sort of after-school program starting in 1997, and it could have been before that, but everyone that's currently working, that's as far back as we could go. So the town ran a program that was held at Corte Madera Community Center in what's known as the Green Room. And from what I understand from staff before, there was around 20 kids a day after school every day, and a larger number of staff. And the children just reported to the room after school. I'm not positive if we picked the kids up, but I'm guessing that we probably did. Not that it's dangerous to walk from the school to the community center, but just for added safety, just to make sure everyone gets there. And on campus at that time, the City of Larkspur ran a program that was called Twin Cities Children's Center. And that ran for a number of years. I knew that staff well. I did some staff training for them, and they had the 2 portables and had run that program for quite a long time. But in summer of 2020, kind of when the pandemic looked like it maybe wasn't going to go away, which in fact it wasn't, the Larkspur School District and the City of Larkspur terminated the lease of the 2 portables on campus at Neil Cummins that they were using to do after-school childcare. When that happened, school was still out or in a hybrid mode. So they approached the town of Corte Madera to be able to provide education support for students. So that included the students being in our program, them being in their online schooling under the guidance of our staff. And then as the COVID virus kind of continued, when the kids went back to school or went to hybrid, we just adapted the program to be able to go in concert with what was happening on campus. And then finally in spring of 2021, hybrid schooling came to an end, And they started providing an after-school camp or childcare program, sort of a little bit looser. And then when I came in, and Alex and I met, and we got some guidance from Ashley about what kind of our goal was for the program, we rebranded it and changed it to meet the needs that we felt like were going to be moving forward. So we developed that on-site before and after school program that's existing now. We called it Corte Madera Children's Center, and we've now been in operation for an entire school year, and we'll start back up in August. Next slide, girls, please, thanks. So in order to decide how we were going to do the program, I mean, obviously I leaned a lot on my experience in San Rafael. I was responsible for opening 5 of the 7 childcare centers that are on site in San Rafael. So everything from staffing to training staff to figuring out fees. And so when we were setting up this program, one of the things that I took the lead on was surveying other programs that I know of in the Bay Area, mostly in the North Bay, who are municipal childcare programs. I also did a couple that were not, and I used the fees that were used at Twin Cities before to come up with a salary or fee schedule that wouldn't be painful, would still make enough money to cover costs, but would not be so much that parents would not be able to avail themselves of it. I analyzed fees, how many hours the programs were open. I did things like how flexible is it? Are you allowed to pick days in the month? Are you locked in? And there's sort of a lot of everything happening right now, because I still feel like the schools are trying to get on top of getting back in. So there was a wide variety of things that people do differently. And so we just landed on what we felt like would work for Corte Madera. And then even though it's not a licensed program, my experiences with licensing, I did use the guidelines for programming that the California Department of Ed Child Development Division uses, because their best practices are really, really high quality and high standards. And I felt like if we were going to do this program, that we should do something that, if it wasn't licensed, was going to at least be held to those same standards. And so the schedule of fees below is the schedule that we came up with that was approved with the fee schedule a year ago, last summer. And that is what it was when we started out the program in August.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Esparza. I started working for the Corte Madera Parks and Rec when I turned 16 years old as a summer camp counselor. Fast forward 8 years and working every summer since. I am now the director for the Corte Madera Children's Center. When I graduated Dominican University, I graduated with a bachelor's in business management and marketing. And with this opportunity to create a childcare program, I've been able to apply the knowledge that I've acquired and continuously learning and developing new skills from Ashley and Rochelle. So our mission at the Corte Madera Children's Center is to be the after-school program for newcoming students. We provide a safe environment where kids can relax, have a quiet place to complete schoolwork, and enjoy being a kid while sharpening their skills and after-school interests. So this year with registration, we've allowed families the flexibility to choose the specific days of the month and charge a daily fee accordingly. So registration for the program opens on the 20th of each month and closes at the last day of that month. To help accommodate those families who are unable to pick up their kindergartners at early release times, we do offer a part day option that also ends at the same time that 1st through 5th graders get out and get released from school. When it comes to non-school days, we do provide childcare for all teacher work days and offer certain holiday care during breaks as well. In addition, with a request from a parent or guardian, we offer math, English, and reading support to students who are in our care. So this takes place during the first 40 minutes that students get off from school. Lastly, because we are conveniently located on Neil campus, our program is a popular option for families, especially those that like to enroll their children in extracurricular activities such as sports or classes held by either Neil Cummins or the Corte Madera Parks and Rec. And for extracurricular activities, we accommodate families' requests to walk their students to and from them. And during school dismissal times, we do have our only pickup kindergartners from their classroom and expect all first through fifth graders to walk to reportables where we greet them at our back gate.
All right, so my name is Alexandra Poretz. I am well known around the childcare scene as Pogo, just because there's two of us and it makes everything easier. I've been with the rec department for 7 years, started as just a regular camp counselor, and I'm so lucky to be helping her out and be her site coordinator for the after school program. So basically, we decided to structure this after school program based off kind of like a free play, structure. So our first hour, we really love to support them and give them like a quiet time / free play outside. We have self-serve stations inside, coloring pages and Legos, trains, all that stuff. And we also have educational support. So math, English, reading, snack time. We do provide snack. COVID did make it hard with, cutting up like fruit and stuff. So we usually try to do like a healthier kind of cracker or something like that. And then we also offer free play on the school playground as well for snack time. The last 2 hours, we love to do art projects. Sorry. We love to do art projects. It's small group activities or games outside. Dodgeball is a huge one. Sharks and minnows, all that stuff. And then we have structured free play until the very end as well with our foosball, air hockey, and ping pong that we got this year. Wednesdays, we do have 2 additional hours because it is an early release day. So we use that time to be in the gym and just have more games and sports. So takeaways from this year, most of our staff are high schoolers. So it definitely is a challenge to staff our program. They get out at a certain time, our kids get out at a certain time. They have days where they can, don't get out early enough or whatever it might be. College students don't necessarily have the time to be an after school counselor. So that definitely does make it a challenge. We also figured out that there's no need for a before school option at this time. We had about 5 participants when the year started, and it slowly trickled down to 1. So we just did not have a need for that as well. So we also realized that non-school day options can be limited. So we realized that we don't have to offer every single holiday. Some parents don't need the help. And also it's hard for us to staff those days as well.
And so, this was an experimental year for everyone, the program, the kids, the parents, and after seeing certain behaviors from families, we've established a parent handbook with firmer policies based on, like pickup and registration fees, refunds, and drop-in days. So that added on to that. And lastly, while it was challenging because town and school district policies are different, we were able to work together well to serve the school population.
This is the least exciting part, but to me, it's the most exciting part. When I sat down to make their budget, I sort of just figured out like how many kids did I think they were going to have and how much money would that bring in for how many days of school there was. And it was like a big math equation. And my major was English in college. So let's be honest, that's not really my thing. So I came up with the budget, and in about October, the program started in August. So in October, I started getting nervous, and I called Daria, she's amazing. Our finance director in the town is unbelievable. And I called her freaking out and said, they're going to exceed the revenue by a lot by December. So she had me do a mid-year adjustment. So the first column is what I came up with initially, and it was a break-even thing because I was hoping that would be what would happen. And then in December, when I redid their budget, I looked back at the other months that had already passed to figure out what I thought might happen. And it is a little bit like trying to decide what the weather's going to be like, because, there's sports in the spring and there's after school classes, and just trying to figure out who's going to stay with us the whole time and who's not. And, it's like a big shell game, honestly, but I came up with what I thought the revenue would be for the year, which was 285,944, and that I thought they would spend about 207, so we would net about 78,000. I looked at the money this week, and they've exceeded the revenue. They haven't exceeded the revenue, but they were lower on their expenses, and so their net is higher than I thought it was going to be. So now I'm looking at the proposed budget for 2022, 2023, and I'm like, I might be wrong there too. So I'm not trying to be wrong, but it just is difficult to sort of figure out who's going to do what. So that's the budget for starting July 1st. I think I'm going to be taking another look at it probably in October. Well, probably not October, probably November, to just see how close we are. But as you can see, they're doing really well. They're spending enough money to make the program viable and fun for the kids, but they're not going crazy. I think one of the things that affected the staffing, the fees, the expense fees this year, is that the staffing was challenging. In Marin, it's challenging anyway. And when I was working in San Rafael, we had difficulty getting staff every year, and we had the added pressure of being licensed. So you cannot open and operate without the appropriate number of staff. We haven't had that problem here because one of the things we did initially was decide we weren't going to go over one staff person for every 10 kids. In San Rafael, we often were at 1 to 14, which is the state limit. And if you think about that in terms of a classroom setting, teachers in the school district can have up to 25 kids. So 14 is actually lower, but it's also because of the education standards are different. So I think that part of the reason that they did so well this year was the expenses were kept really low. They did have also the benefit of when we took over those 2 classrooms, a lot of the infrastructure stuff was already there. They already had tables and chairs in good repair. They had some supplies. So we did benefit sort of from that. And that's why my projection for next year's net revenue is less, because we will have to be buying some different supplies, and we will be hiring more staff if we're able to hire more staff. The second chart is just an idea of sort of how the participation goes. Those numbers are based on actual registrations. So when you look at September and you look at after school, which is the yellow, we actually had 91 or 2, I forget, different children registering to be in the after school program for different times. They were averaging between 30 and 50 kids a day, depending. Wednesdays, of course, was bigger because there's no school. And so that affects the numbers a lot. And like Alex was saying, the morning program, we really thought there was going to be a need for that. And it turns out that at least last year, that wasn't a need. That doesn't, because we decided this year we weren't going to do it, that doesn't mean we won't revisit that if there's an identified need. But in all honesty, if you have less than 3 or 4 kids, it's babysitting, not childcare. And I don't think we want to get in the situation where that's what our program is. We really do want to operate as a full childcare center, and with that kind of numbers of kids and that level of professional staff. So those are just kind of 2 things, just sort of for your information, that's statistical information. The one other thing I'd like to talk about is, I'm used to, like I said, being with licensed programs, and part of licensing is that you have to evaluate your program every year. And the state of California does have a rubric for that, and they do have a system. It's called quality self-assessment. So how it works is the staff assesses the program based on what they see every day. And then the second part of that is we have people come in from the outside to assess the program. And so I have a couple connections of friends who work in child development programs, not in Corte Madera, of course, and I'll be there just to watch, but we are going to do a full assessment of the program at the end of September so that we can see where the gaps in care are, or where areas that we'd like to add some value to, or things that we feel like can be changed around to make them more effective. So once that evaluation happens and I do the report, I definitely will share that information with everyone on the commission. I feel like it's really, really important to assess the program internally and have someone externally do it. And so that's the one thing that we didn't put in the presentation, but I wanted you to know that we definitely are looking at doing those evaluations and changing the program based on the results that we get.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to open it up. I'm sure that there's some questions from the commissioners.
All right, cool. Hi, I'm the youth commissioner. I just had 2 questions. So I'm not tall enough to reach this. My first question was about staffing, and I understand it's really hard to staff. Thank you. I understand it's really hard to staff considering most of your staff is teenagers and their schedules change a lot. But I was wondering what kind of licensing or education you had to your staff about children who might have like ADHD, learning disabilities, or things that might separate them from other children socially, and how staff can kind of help with that and know how to help with that.
Do you guys want to answer that, or do you want me to?
Rachel, go for it.
You want me to? Part of my other thing that I do on the side is I work for the state of California training child development staff. At this point, I have done some training for the staff that are existing, and that would be a continuing education thing. I think generally speaking in child development programs, we don't segregate kids out. We allow them to self-segregate, which is its own problem. So, kids will be in groups playing, or they'll be in age groups playing different things. And they do sort of choose who they want to hang out with. In terms of like learning disabilities, we definitely work with the school to address needs that certain kids have, as well as the parents. So I would say, if we had children that had additional needs, that we would know about it and then train the staff. Well, we would be trained ourselves and then train the staff to pick up the slack for that as well.
Thank you. Oh, and I had one more question about, do you have any type of, I'm not sure the word for it, but any family who might have difficulty paying for the after school program, but they really need it? Do you have any type of scholarship? Thank you.
Yeah, we do have a scholarship program. And I have to say that nobody has enough scholarship money. Like, just to be honest, you can't serve everyone that needs to be served. The money that comes from the state or federal government that pays for childcare actually is administered through the Marin County Child Care Council. So everyone from wherever you're from, you could be from anywhere in Marin, you go on one centralized waiting list, and then they give scholarship money to the people most in need. I'm not sure if we had any kids that were in that situation in the program this year, but I know last summer we did. And what happens is they attend, and then we fill out paperwork for the Child Care Council, and they pay us after the fact. So I know that's happened before. The town does have limited funds, but it's difficult. A typical month in childcare, if you're going every day, you can do the math, it's a few $100s. Our scholarship program pays for half of the fees. And if we did that for even one family for the whole year, we'd have no scholarship money left. That said, if somebody was in great enough need, I feel confident that we could work with them to do something. But at this time, we don't really have anyone that's requested that from us. And I do tend to send people to the Child Care Council because the centralized waiting list is really important in order to give people care and to be able to assist families in need. And there's a couple other organizations who will pay for child development program after school, who if the person is a student at a university, a lot of times we'll get that kind of funding. And again, in Corte Madera, we haven't had anything like that I've seen. And I would think I would know if we did have that this year, but I haven't seen that.
Thank you.
So I have a question. That $100,000 net, does that go back into the general fund? What happens to those dollars? And then the other part of that is the goal to run this program for profit?
I mean, that wouldn't be my goal. My understanding from the town of what our department is supposed to do is break even. So that money will be part of the bigger budget for the department, which I just finished. So all that money will be helping to support all of the other things that we do in our programs across the board. You know what I mean? It's like a big pot of money. It's not a savings account for childcare necessarily. They don't have a sinking fund yet where they could put money aside for bigger projects or things like that. It's not at this time, it's not like that. It's just part of the bigger budget. So, you know, I mean, it's not a secret that there are programs and things that we do that don't cover themselves. And so some of that money will go to assist with that.
Quickly to interject regarding the question with the sinking fund, and so that we can keep any revenue that's into the department back into the department. There's been discussion to just explore options and how we can do that, as well as explore options on how we can build up our scholarship fund in general. So that's going to be talked about at the council level and get some more direction for our department.
I just have a quick comment. I'm looking at Fred and we're kind of smiling because I want to commend you guys for running it. I know it is a fine balance between being sensitive to charging market rates for the people that can pay market rates, and then being sensitive and offering scholarships. But I just appreciate that you guys are thinking about it a little bit like a business and being careful about your expenses, because in the past, Kids Club and after school camp were not run that way. And so I think to the extent that some families want to pay a market rate and you can get a little bit of net income off of that and then apply it to other things where you can't, I just really appreciate that from a sense of fiscal responsibility. So thank you. And you guys are obviously doing a great job. And then I thought that was interesting on the morning care, because it's got to be a COVID thing, work from home, because my kids went to Twin Cities Children's Center on the days I worked, but I was in the city and there were like 30 kids in the morning. But now I guess parents don't have to commute. So it was just an interesting observation, because I know in the morning it was busy before.
Is there a wait list, or are we able to service all the children that go to Neil Cummins? If there are any issues with numbering of availability to service the kids?
I mean, we haven't run into that yet. We haven't, there are still other programs that are functioning on campus that aren't ours that are taking care of kids. I think across the board in Marin at the other providers, what everyone's found is exactly what was just said, is that everyone's working from home now or whatever, and they just need a few hours a day. And it's just a different, I think things are still changing, and, maybe someday it is going to be, that we're going to have a waiting list, but not as of right now. We haven't really we've had a couple days where it looked like we were going to have to not be able to take in more kids, but for the most part, we've been kind of right where we need to be. Again, because we're not licensed, if we had enough staff, we can take as many kids as staff that we have. Because we do have rooms. And if we were licensed, we could be licensed for probably 80 or 90 kids a day. Those rooms are very large with square footage. And that's how they decide how many kids you can have, is by the square footage that you can use.
Oh, I have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One reason I asked is that I've heard, and I have not confirmed this, I'm just throwing it out as something to consider, is that on the east side of Corte Madera, they are at capacity for the after care at the Cove. And so there are families that need care for their kids and are balancing it and don't have it at the school. So I just wasn't sure if that was something. First, I'm not even certain of the accuracy, that's the scuttlebutt. But two, if that's just something that's on our minds, as well as, as offering services for the kids on the east side, if that's something that is indeed a need that is unmet.
I think the challenge there is that we then are competing with a program that the district has put there and has been there for quite a long time. it's a hard question, because if they're on campus and we're on campus, there is this weird dynamic that happens when there's more than one program run by two different organizations. You know, it's kind of who's in charge of who, and you know, it does get a little muddy. So I mean, I definitely think that could be something we could think about in the future if that was something that was going to open up. It's difficult when you're on a campus that you don't have a facility. You know, we're lucky at Neil Cummins, we have those 2 portables. If we were on site at Cove, I'm not sure, I'm guessing we'd rent space from the school and that, or whatever, we'd have some kind of trade with them. And what would that look like? Like, do they even have space? You know, there is like a lot of questions about sort of then what, you know what I mean? Sort of a then what conversation. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say we should close the door on that if the school district came and asked us about that. I mean, my advice to Ashley would be like, how can we help them? Like, what could we do?
Sure. Okay. Well, and again, I'm not even certain there is a problem. I've just heard a little bit. And so I thought I'd ask if, you know, if that's something that's on our plate, or, but it sounds like maybe not yet, but there's an openness if a need is indeed identified.
And really quick, as 5G is providing that after school programming at the Cove, but we do offer after school classes there. So we do have a presence on campus.
That's right. That's right.
So I think one of the benefits of the program is how flexible you are for the families and allow them to sign up for just what they need on a month by month basis. But with the commitment you have to the student teacher ratios and the challenges you've already had with getting sufficient staff, I wonder how you manage that, not only on a month to month basis, but how you're going to approach staffing going into the next school year.
Are you waiting for me to talk, Alex? Because I feel like I've been talking a lot. These guys are going to be sick of me. You know, I mean, at this point, I'm not super worried about next year yet. I mean, it is a fine line. I mean, there is definitely times where we're wondering. One of the things that's different about this program is that Alex count themselves in the ratio, which isn't the case everywhere. A lot of programs that have center directors and program coordinators or program directors, whatever you want to call them, sort of in the upper level of management, don't count themselves in the ratio with the kids, which to me is a little ridiculous. Just because you're there, why would you not count? I mean, I am cautiously optimistic that we will be fully staffed this fall because it's a great place to work, and people definitely, I mean, we had a lot of people that we just sort of were moving parts, but if we could get a couple solid people to stay, that would be amazing. We're, you know, kind of the approach sort of is like, it's going to all work out. Like, we're just going to make it work. And it, so far it's been fine. There hasn't really been any days of stress. I worked a couple days this spring because we had people out with COVID. You never know, maybe I'll come back and work with the kids again. Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
And to add on to that, I mean, we're, what's it called, getting a head start, you know, now that the school year just ended, to get ready for the next school year. We've already, you know, started some marketing flyers that we're going to send out to potential candidates to, you know, hire staff for the fall. And right now we're currently working the summer camp, and we just hired a bunch of new staff, and we're promoting ourselves and their friends, and a lot of them are interested. So we're constantly trying to reach out to new people, and already doing so.
Great. If there aren't any more commissioner questions, we'll look and see if there's any hand raised or emailed comment from the public.
I am seeing a raised hand from David McPherson, so I will get my timer started and unmute him.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm so glad to see that the Children's Center is back up and running. And I think that I understand correctly that it's still operating in the 2 portables that formerly were used by Twin Cities. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. You know, our experience with Lucy and our family was that we were really blessed with the location there adjacent to Neil Cummins from kindergarten until third grade, and then she went on to the Cove School. And what was really important was the staff was very consistent. I mean, some of them had been there for better than a decade. And while there's certainly nothing wrong with having high schoolers assist in the running of an after-school program, that to us was really the benefit. We were getting people that we got to know very well year after year. Other members of our family had known them from many years prior to Lucy beginning there when she was in kindergarten. So I guess one of my points would be is the $27 a day is such a reasonable fee. I would hope that parents are encouraged or required to commit to 5 days a week if they need 5 days a week for at least a month, so that you don't have somebody cherry picking and only paying for the days that their children actually show up. And maybe that's how it's being done, but it wasn't clear to me from the presentation if a parent could sign up for 5 days, but then if they only show up for 3 days, they only pay for the days that they're actually there. I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to see it run, as was suggested by one of the other commissioners, a little bit more as a business, and don't be concerned about generating excess net fees, so that you can hang on to staff year after year. That's what I would encourage you to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. Are there any other comments from the public?
I am not seeing any additional raised hands.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to the commission.
No emailed public comments.
Thanks, Rebecca. We'll bring it back to the commission for any final comments. Okay, thank you so much for the presentation and the information. Have a good evening. Okay, item 3D on our calendar is the July 2022 activity calendar and proclamation for Parks Make It Life Better Month, approved by the town council. And Ashley is going to take us through that.
Yes, thank you. Traditionally, July is our most active and engaged month with our communities, between summer camps, after school programs turning into summer camps, contracted camps, our events in the parks, and just general engagement with our families. So the California Parks and Recreation Society and the National Park and Recreation Association deem July as Park Makes Life Better Month. And at last council meeting, I made a presentation and requested that council approve a proclamation naming July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month, and they agreed. And then we also shared our activity calendar, and that's on the inside front cover or inside back cover of our activity guide that was mailed out. And for our commissioners in present, it's the calendar that looks like this, and it's a different activity every month. And some of the highlights that we like to share on there is the return of our family dances. Still working on the terminology, because we do, again, want to make sure that it's completely inclusive. We want to have all family members, different families or look differently. And really want to create that openness, following along what we did for the May 13th outdoor family dance in the park. That was such a huge success. We had a couple hundred people show up to that. And then also debuting our movies in the park. So we'll have one in July and one in August, and that'll be a Friday night. The first one will be at Town Park, and we'll be showing Sing 2, and we'll have some surprise goodies for kids. And partnering with some of the PTOs to really engage the schools and help with some fundraisers and creating some food and entertainment events. We will have live music before each of those as well. So we're solidifying it, but it looks like we'll have the JoJo Diamond Band for July, and we'll have the Barnacles for August, and August will be over at the Cove. So really trying to create these events that bring families together, but also bring them together in our facilities, and especially outside in our parks, and really enjoying it. So we encourage everybody to follow our July calendar and engage in some of those activities, and always give us some feedback. We love to see people, but we love to be tagged online. We love to have people share their pictures and tag us. So thank you all for checking out again our July Parks Make Life Better month activity calendar. Is there any questions?
No questions, Ashley, but I just thought that was really creative. It was fun to look through and the suggestions you have for people. I bet, I mean, well, it's fun. I think it's a really cool calendar.
Thank you.
We could see if there are any public comments.
I am not seeing any raised hands from online attendees. And in checking the emailed public comments, we did not receive any emailed public comments.
Great. Well, we'll just bring it back for any other comments. I would just also like to commend that we're getting equal representation or trying to get more equal distribution across the east and the west side parks. It's fantastic.
We're always open to suggestions.
Okay, if there are no more comments, we'll keep moving. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Consent calendar are items that are routine or have been previously discussed and do not require any further discussion, but any member of the public is welcome to make a comment or pull an item from the consent calendar for further discussion. We'll start by asking if anyone from the commission would like to pull anything from our consent calendar, which consists only of the approval of our minutes from the May 23rd, 2022 commission meeting. If not, it would give the public an opportunity to comment on this item if there are any public comments on this item before we pull it back for a vote.
I am not seeing any raised hands from online attendees, and we did not receive any emailed public comment.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to the commission if someone would like to make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Great. Rebecca, if you could please call the vote.
Commissioner Charlie,
Yes.
Commissioner Elson,
Yes.
Commissioner Koenig,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner McPherson,
Yes.
Co-Chair Janowski,
Yes.
and Co-Chair Brown.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to tonight's business items. And we have one business item tonight. It's a pretty meaty business item. It's the presentation of the draft executive summary of the Parks and Rec Master Plan by Ashley and a further detail of the plan that I will share out. And after which we will open this up for commission questions, then public comment, and then commissioner discussion.
I can ask, would it be okay with the co-chairs if we bring something up from the end of the agenda, because we have family in attendance and wanted to witness their son have the swearing in, and it is a very meaty agenda item.
That's totally
yes,
fine. That makes sense.
absolutely.
It's a
Okay.
ceremonial swearing in because their terms don't take effect until July 1st, but I don't think there's anything inconsistent with just letting them be sworn in, and then we can continue on with the rest of the agenda.
Happy to do that. So we'll move up to agenda item 9, which is the oath of office. And I'll turn it over to you, Rebecca, to give the oath of office to both new and recommitting commissioners for 2-year term commencing July 1st, 2022. Sarah Elson, Alden Miles, Tim Rose, and Alexander Blumling.
And going on with the rest of my day, I left Sarah's on, I think, the printer. But I will have one for her to sign before the end of the meeting. We'll do the youth commissioner separately. If you don't mind, you can come to the podium. And I'll have this so that you can read from it. Okay. I'll read and you respond. I state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations.
Oh, welcome.
For purposes of the recording, I think that mic is not on.
Okay, thank you. This is.
Did you want to go back to the agenda or do everybody now? Okay, we'll go back to business item 5A and I'll turn it over to you, Ashley.
All right. Thank you very much for being flexible and jumping around. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, an introduction, presentation of the draft executive summary of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Recommended action this evening is to review and discuss the draft executive summary of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan prepared by the Master Plan Subcommittee and staff. A little bit of background is the executive summary of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is a synopsis of community feedback on programming and facility needs and recommendations from the Master Plan Subcommittee on how to currently how to address current and long-term recreation needs, both programming and facilities for Corte Madera residents as outlined in the town's general plan, chapter 6, which is Parks and Recreation. The executive summary recaps community feedback gathered through our surveys, workshops, public meetings, and ongoing projects of interest for the town of Corte Madera and Parks and Recreation Department. An independent conditions assessment of the town's indoor and outdoor recreation facilities will be incorporated with the executive summary to create a draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan that will be presented to the commission as at a subsequent meeting. And then that draft will be of the Parks Plan will be reviewed by town management and the Parks and Recreation Commission before being presented to town council for feedback and future direction. Discussion this evening, staff asked that the commission review and discuss the draft executive summary seen in attachment 1 and provide any suggestions, revisions, or further direction to staff. There's no fiscal or environmental impact with the discussion this evening. Turning it over to Co-Chair Brown.
Thanks, Ashley. So I'm going to take people through the draft Parks and Rec Master Plan executive summary, which includes an introduction, a review of the community engagement methods that were utilized, the needs assessment survey summary, the focus group workshops summary, public engagement meetings summary, and the community survey on topics of greatest interest summary, all leading to recommendations from the 4 community engagement methods utilized on programs, projects, and facilities and infrastructure that we might consider moving forward. So first part is the introduction. The executive summary of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is a synopsis of community feedback on programming and facility needs and recommendations from the subcommittee on how to address current and long-term recreation needs, both programming and facilities, for Corte Madera residents as outlined in the town's general plan, chapter 6. The executive summary recaps community feedback gathered through surveys, workshops, public meetings, and ongoing projects and interests of the town of Corte Madera and the Parks and Recreation Department. The executive summary was drafted by the subcommittee of the Parks and Recreation Commission and will be presented to the Greater Commission tonight for feedback and support. An independent conditions assessment of the town's indoor and outdoor recreational facilities will be incorporated with the executive summary to create a draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan. That plan will be reviewed by town management and the Parks and Recreation Commission before being presented to the town council for feedback and direction. It's important to note that this document is informational only, intended only to provide a data resource for future decisions relating to parks and recreation programming and facilities. The town has made no decisions or approvals on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan or specific facility improvement projects discussed during community engagement sessions. Before deciding which projects to pursue and the timing of those projects, the town council will consider many factors, including budgetary issues and the findings of the environmental review required by the California Environmental Quality Act. Once the top priorities are formalized through council direction, further analysis will be required to identify funding and establish schedules to begin developing concepts into projects. We'd had 4 community engagement methods that were utilized, including a needs assessment survey that was done in 2021, focus group workshops in 2021 by Zoom, public engagement meetings also done by Zoom in 2022, and community survey on topics of greatest interest, which was an online survey done in 2022. Those were done in sequential order. The summary of the needs assessment survey. In April 2021, a community needs assessment survey was mailed to every Corte Madera resident to analyze residents' opinions about various topics related to the town's parks, recreation facilities, programs, and events. The results were intended to establish priorities for future investment and improvement. Residents were asked to submit their responses via mail using a postage paid envelope or complete the survey online. A statistically valid sample of 685 residents responded, resulting in a precision of at least plus or minus 3.6% at the 95% level of confidence. There's a link to the same survey was mailed to past program participants in the Corte Madera Parks and Recreation Registration Database, yielding similar results. However, only resident results were included in the data analyzed below. Key findings. Overall, residents are satisfied with the value received from the town parks and recreation offerings. There were importance ratings that were assessed for facilities and programs and amenities, and facilities, programs, and activities that were deemed to be most important to households with a rating of 15% or greater by households that selected that item as one of their top 4 choices, included town park athletic fields, town park playground, Bayside Trail, community center, town park plaza, town park picnic and barbecue facilities, Menke Park, and town park bathrooms. The parks and recreation facilities and amenities that are most important to households with a rating of 15% or greater included trails, steps, and pathways, public swimming pool, park benches to relax, read, and enjoy nature, and playgrounds. And C, parks and recreation programs and events that are most important to households with a rating of 15% or greater included outdoor concerts and performing arts, weekly food truck events, and holiday celebration events. Priorities for improvements. The importance satisfaction analysis, which was done especially by ETC Institute that conducted this survey, is designed to pinpoint service level items that will have the largest impact on overall satisfaction with parks and recreation programs and offerings. Based on the analysis, the following were determined to be the top priorities for improvement in order to improve overall satisfaction. Those were town park bathrooms, the community center, and athletic fields. A summary of the top priorities for investment was determined based on the importance of each item to the community, combined with the degree to which the need is currently unmet. And these are listed in descending order. They were looked at in 3 categories, including facilities and amenities, programs and events, and event programming. The top priorities for investment for facilities and amenities in descending order were public swimming pool, trails, steps, and pathways, park benches to relax, read, and enjoy nature, indoor fitness classes, bocce ball courts, community gardens, and food concessions. The top priorities for investment for programs and events in descending order were weekly food truck events, outdoor concerts and performing arts, cultural events, local history walks and talks, holiday celebration events, and open mic nights for local artists. The top priorities for investment for event programming in descending order were 4th of July parade and park events, summer concert series at Menke Park, Corte Madera age-friendly speaker series, Oktoberfest, and crab feed. Moving to section 4 of the executive summary, the focus group workshops. In November and December 2021, 2 focus group workshops were facilitated to explore impressions and feedback on results of the needs assessment survey and to refine the topics of greatest interest to discuss during public engagement meetings. 18 individuals participated in the workshops, representing community groups, special interest groups, neighborhoods, and local schools. Discussion categories included park restroom facilities, artificial turf fields, fitness courts, community center renovation, town park plaza, and facilities, and priority investment ratings that were determined by the needs assessment survey. An open dialogue was encouraged. Among the key findings, the community center building is nostalgic to some workshop participants and has historic connections to multiple service groups. Some participants emphasized the importance of preserving green space of town park and the desire to minimize development that would reduce that green space. There was not enough interest in pursuing additional discussions on dedicated fitness courts or further improvements at Town Park Plaza to warrant including them in public engagement meetings going forward. Discussions supported additional community engagement on the following topics: strategies to improve the restrooms in Town Park, strategies to add or increase classroom space, exploring options to make indoor facilities more flexible and accommodating more simultaneous programming, and athletic field improvements. Section 5, Public Engagement Meeting Summary. In January 2022, 2 public engagement sessions were conducted via Zoom to discuss topics of greatest interest identified through the focus group workshops. Town residents and program participants in general were encouraged to participate on one or both days. Discussion topics included park restrooms, indoor facilities, outdoor facilities, and facilities and program priority investment ratings. 47 individuals participated in the public meetings, not including town staff and commissioners. An informal poll was taken during both public meetings to collect attendee feedback on topic categories. The poll was administered verbally by moderators on Friday, January 7th, 2022 in topic breakout rooms, and as one group, since attendance did not warrant use of Zoom breakout rooms, on Saturday, January 8th, 2022. Poll responses were intended to guide discussion rather than obtain quantitative data, and therefore feedback was not recorded consistently. Among the key findings, park restrooms. The majority of feedback supported keeping existing porta potties and focusing resources on developing permanent amenities as soon as possible, roughly 18 to 24 months following the town's planning process for a town project. Additional discussion was had regarding selection and installation of new park restrooms in town park, including consideration for use such as children changing into and out of soccer clothes, family-friendly facilities, adding permanent facilities to locations served now by temporary facilities, like at the playground behind the community center, and replacing existing facility between tennis court and skate park. New location suggestions favored a location that would serve users on the east side of the park. There was a desire to look at locations that may have utilities that can be accessed more easily to reduce projects' installation costs. And there was a consideration for locations that minimize the use of green space. Within the packet, there are some locations that have been plotted on a map. Support was also shared for installation of a permanent restroom at Menke Park in Old Corte Madera Square. Discussion was had around indoor facilities. The preferred approach was to broaden the flexibility of indoor facilities. Overall support through discussions was divided between exploring potential ways to renovate or broaden the flexibility of the community center and acquiring space at Park Madera Center as leases expire. The key reasons for support included adding more classroom and event space, and the reason for not supporting this included expense and lack of community members specifically asking for a renovation, particularly of the community center. On the topic of outdoor facilities, there were 2 primary things explored, including athletic fields. Most participants supported installation of 1 or more artificial turf fields in Corte Madera parks, with Town Park as the preferred location. Strong feelings of support and opposition were shared regarding all-weather field installation, including supporting year-round use, improved player safety, decreased water use and maintenance, and the need for further research on material types, environmental impact, increased use of fields, impact to neighbors, and more. The second outdoor facility discussed at great length was a community swimming pool. The preference for an outdoor pool over an indoor pool was indicated, with top reasons for use being exercise and recreation, followed by learn to swim programs. The general consensus from meeting participants was that they were not well informed that the Redwood High School pool had been open for public use during the summer of 2021. While a top survey result from a priority rating standpoint, there were few passionate for pool participants in either public meeting. There was also a discussion around facilities and program priority investment ratings. There was a strong interest in combining food trucks with other events, particularly music-related events. Participants expressed an interest in attending food truck events monthly and cultural events once or twice a year. Section 6, community survey on topics of greatest interest, the summary. The poll questions used during the public engagement meetings were adapted into a survey via SurveyMonkey in order to capture additional feedback on topics of greatest interest. The survey was advertised online and through town newsletters. A total of 271 responses were collected February through March 2022. The key findings included: on park restrooms, 80% of responses supported keeping existing porta potties and focusing resources on developing permanent amenities as soon as possible. The top 3 locations to add a permanent restroom in Town Park were: 1, behind the community center in the middle of the park, 41%; 2, between the tennis courts and skate park, East Park and existing facility, 29%; and 3, the playground and the northeast side of the park, 18%. On the topic of indoor facilities, 60% of responses supported the option to explore the potential to renovate the community center, and 43% preferred acquiring space at Park Madera Center as leases expire. On the topic of athletic fields, 64% of responses supported installation of 1 or more artificial turf fields in Corte Madera parks, and 36% were not supportive. Despite the support or lack of support, responses indicated that Town Park would be the preferred location over Cove Park, 66 versus 34%. On the topic of a community swimming pool, 59% of responses would most likely use a community swimming pool for recreational swim, 30% for exercise, and 11% for learn to swim program. Respondents were fairly even regarding interest in year-round versus seasonal access to a pool. Regarding awareness that Redwood High School pool was open to the public in the summer of 2021, 41% or 106 responses indicated that they were not aware and would have used it. 31% were aware but did not use it. 24% were unaware but would not have used it, and only 4% were aware and used it. When asked if Redwood High School pool was available to the public, if Redwood High School pool were available to the public in the future, 45% of respondents said that they would use it. 37% were unsure and 18% would not use it. On the topic of additional programming interests, 87% of respondents confirmed that no programming interests were missing or should have been included from the survey. Of the 13% or 31 responses indicating that an interest was missing, qualitative answers supported additional programming for family-friendly events and activities like dances, outdoor movies, and concerts. Requests to improve Menke Park as an event space was also indicated, as was additional access to pickleball and year-round soccer, support for more outdoor fitness sports activities for all ages and abilities. On the topic of event programming and food trucks, there was general support at 66% for combining a weekly food truck event with another component such as music or entertainment. Respondents most supported attending a food truck event monthly or once or twice a year. Respondents indicated interest in attending a cultural or history event once or twice a year, 54%, or monthly, and there was recurring interest in the topics of local or California history, multicultural holiday celebrations, and music. On the topic of additional facility interests, the majority of respondents advocated for improving or adding outdoor sports athletic facilities from fields that could be used year-round to building indoor fitness spaces and gyms. There was a lot of support for all-weather or artificial turf, as well as development of pickleball and bocce courts. After athletics, requests for improving Menke Park and creating space to support a community concert or performance amphitheater was prioritized, as was improving Menke Park and the community center. Section 7, recommendations reached from the 4 community engagement methods utilized. Based on the identified priorities from the survey, subsequent community engagement meetings, and analysis by the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Subcommittee, The following areas have been identified for further consideration, evaluation, and investment to meet community needs, provide high-quality parks and recreation facilities and programs, and invest in areas that will provide not only immediate benefits to the community, but long-term opportunities to support the health, wellness, and educational interests of Corte Madera residents of all ages and abilities. The following recommendations are not prioritized by the subcommittee and are therefore not listed in any order of importance. Number one, town park public bathrooms, including new permanent facilities adjacent to the community center on the east side of the park to serve the athletic fields and dog park area and immediately adjacent to the playground. A sidewalk connecting Town Park Plaza to Town Park to enhance the safety and park access on the east side of the parking lot, with a consideration for making improvements in conjunction with another improvement project like restroom installation or parking lot resurfacing. Community center renovation, with a focus on creating flexible classroom and indoor-outdoor event space, including a stage to host live concerts and other entertainment, upgrading bathrooms, and improving building accessibility. With a focus on continuing to evaluate opportunities to secure space at Park Madera Center to meet immediate needs for classroom space and long-term needs to support recreation programming. Indoor fitness facilities to support a variety of classes and equipment for group or individual use, to be considered as part of the community center renovation and or securing additional space at Park Madera Center. A swimming pool to provide recreational lap swim and learn to swim programs, to be considered either through a public or private partnership to provide community access in lieu of building a dedicated facility due to costs and land availability. Improved athletic fields to enable year-round use, to optimize field conditions, increase player enjoyment and safety, and minimize environmental impacts. Should be considered both all-weather turf and natural turf options, as well as optimal location or locations, with consideration given to opportunities to partner with the Larkspur Corte Madera School District on Town Park and Cove Park fields to provide elementary school students with facilities for school day use. Trails, steps, and pathways to provide residents and visitors with a variety of safe, accessible, pleasant walks within the community. Consider partnering with Public Works and Age-Friendly Corte Madera to publish a map of the trails, steps, and pathways in neighborhoods, including Chapman Park and Christmas Tree Hill. Include information on Corte Madera's history, denoting old railroad tracks and routes. Create an organized walking group for guided walks and local history talks. Parks, benches, and tables in Town Park. To provide more areas for park visitors to gather, including adding or developing a picnic area to accommodate larger groups of 50 or more. Picnic seating inside the playground, reservable areas by the playground, additional seating on the park perimeter closest to Neil Cummins Elementary School. This could be done in consideration of a reinstatement of the Memorial Bench program. Repurposing Park Madera Center to take advantage of conveniently located space adjacent to both the community center and town park, offering opportunities for space to conduct enrichment and fitness classes, as well as larger community events. Also consider options to improve parking to serve Town Park and the community center. Weekly food truck events at Town Park, Cove Park, and or Menke Park as standalone events to encourage the community to come together and enjoy picnics at the park, or in conjunction with other planned events, including sports and entertainment. Closing off the parking lots for pedestrian safety, adding temporary tables, chairs, and bathrooms would be also beneficial. Concerts and performing arts to expand on the popularity of the summer concert series at Menke Park. Host regular family-friendly music, performance, and entertainment events at a variety of town-owned parks and facilities in conjunction with food trucks. Consider options for creation or improvement of indoor and outdoor venues. Menke Park upgrades to create more accessible and usable space. In partnership with the Corte Madera Community Foundation, renovate the park to optimize its use both as a performance hub and a destination park, including more or better seating, improved pathways, upgraded landscaping and lighting, and the addition of bathroom facilities. Explore opportunities to improve public safety and park enjoyment by closing off the street and the parking lot during events and or on the weekends. Tennis and pickleball courts to improve, enhance, and expand the facilities. Explore development of dedicated pickleball courts at Town Park and Granada Park. Establish criteria to determine court resurfacing or an estimated schedule for maintenance. Refurbish the tennis backboard at Town Park. And finally, a bocce ball court with the possible locations at both Cove Park and Town Park. And with that, I would like to open it up first to the commission with any questions, then we'll open it for public comments and questions, and we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say that is just a really comprehensive and well done summary. So thank you, Ashley and Master Plan Committee. That's a lot of work to put that together. Thank you.
Yeah, here, Ashley. Thank you.
I just have a clarification. Under bathrooms, you mentioned adjacent to the community center and immediately adjacent to the playground. So are you guys recommending 2 different new facilities?
There's a recommendation to explore multiple locations.
Okay.
Not a recommendation to necessarily build in all of those locations, but
Right.
to explore where they may be needed the most.
I also have just one more question. Would the bathrooms be, or would you include also like all gender and accessible bathrooms for people in wheelchairs, or yeah, is that going to be included?
Yes, that's definitely one of the considerations is family bathrooms, accessible bathrooms, and making them non-gender specific. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, do we have any public comment or raised hands, Rebecca?
We did not receive any emailed public comment on this item, and I am seeing one raised hand from David McPherson, who I will acknowledge and unmute now.
Good evening again, and that was really a very, very impressive blueprint of what is possible in the future. And what's not clear to me is what steps happen in the next months, if not longer, for this list of possible recommendations to become prioritized such that they're then presented to the town council for budgeting and ultimately putting them out for bid. Thank you.
I'd like to answer that. Our next phase is we've done this community engagement and we've done a variety of different methods to gain feedback and really explore some of the items that really need to be talked about in potential projects. But we also are seeking out a separate independent contractor to come in and actually assess our indoor and outdoor facilities for their current conditions. Because overlaying those 2 documents of the data from the needs assessment with the needs and priorities that everybody has provided feedback on, with the actual outside consultant coming in and saying what the actual conditions of our facilities are, is going to be able to help us prioritize what some of these projects should be that we're going to be presenting to council for further direction and consideration. And at that time, then we will be able to prioritize projects and align some potential funding with it. So we do still have a couple of months to work on this before it's going to be seen at the council level. We are talking to outside consultants now. We have not put out an RFP yet for that conditions assessment, but that's going to be our next step and be able to merge the 2 documents. And whatever consultant we select is going to be able to use all the data from everything we've collected now. And they're going to be able to do an independent presentation for us that we're going to include in that draft master plan that will again come back to the commission after going through town management and staff to make sure that we've refined everything as much as possible. Come back to the commission and the commission will be asked to recommend it to council for consideration.
Thank you.
I am not seeing any additional raised hands, and we did not receive any emailed public comments.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised in the room, so we'll bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or comments.
I have a couple questions. Do we know what kind of footprint is required for an outdoor swimming pool? I mean, I know you can make them bigger or smaller, but do we even really know what, what that's asking? As far as like how much space and, because I don't have an idea for that. Would that be a quarter of the park? Would it be,
We haven't explored the actual impact of what the size might be for a public swimming pool. It's going to be most valuable to see the conditions assessment along paired with the needs assessment that we've already participated in a year ago. But right now, and then comparing obviously what the intended or requested uses of the pool were, whether it was recreation or learn to swim. But each of those have different pool sizes. So that would be a much further down the road conversation and community engagement should we proceed with presenting that plan.
And then my understanding, being part of this from the beginning, was to take a look at the park as a whole and try to think big picture what we really want it to be. And so is there any thinking about redeveloping Park Madera Center and incorporating that into part of the park and not having it be retail? Because that would completely change what we could do.
Yes, I definitely hear what you're saying about the potential to turn Park Madera Center into some green space. Because I think from their community engagement, we've definitely heard an echoing response that people are very protective of taking away any of our green space in the 20+ acre park of Town Park. We're so lucky to have that almost in the center of town and utilized in so many different ways, along with the school and just the general community. And I think right now we're very sensitive to not wanting to take any of that green space back. But should we have the opportunity to turn green space or add facilities like a swimming pool or a gym over at Park Madera Center, I think it's going to be a little bit more deferred conversations when those leases come up. And I think that's going to be over 10 years. So we're thinking of the master plan right now, our 3 to 10 year range. And I think that's going to be a beyond that conversation, but definitely will be a good one to have community engagement on.
Okay.
And I had a question regarding the Menke Park upgrades. I noted that there's comments about doing this in partnership with the Corte Madera Community Foundation. And I know obviously they use that site as they're the sponsor, the organizers for the Sunday music, but I'm curious if there's any other motivation from their part or why they're involved in this one particular thing beyond the music.
Aline, do you want to address that? And the Corte Madera Community Foundation has come forward with an interest in taking that on as a project, both because of the concert series and because of just it being a part of old Corte Madera and a central part of the town. But beyond that, Aline, I know you've had a conversation with them. Would you like to provide more detail?
Yes, I think it's pretty much what you're saying. They're very interested in improving the space so that it is a better concert venue. They're also hearing feedback from us regarding the master plan, regarding more benches, more seating, making it a safer space because of the deterioration of stairways and improving ADA paths and spaces. It's been a very popular venue. I attended one recently and the crowd just was overflowing. So I think it needs to be, what their view is that it needs to be upgraded to accommodate for the demand for these outdoor concerts and possibly adding food trucks and all of that. So they're very supportive of that and want to work with the town to create a better space.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that the collaboration is there and that the town is open to that as well. So I think that's great. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I don't think we have an action to take on this item tonight. It's just for information purposes, and we will continue to work on the master plan as we get additional information in. Okay, so we'll move on to staff updates and commissioner reports. And we'll start, Ashley, with you, the director's report.
Okay, everybody hear me? Just a reminder, we do have a number of programs for our active older adults. We are constantly adding more classes. We've got a fitness class on Mondays that includes watching videos and all being together and acting out the videos together. It's a great social environment. So it's bringing social and fitness together. We also have bridge, and we're looking to add a beginning bridge as well as some other beginning card games and regular games. And hopefully from that, we'll spin off and do more of a intergenerational and have some family nights and do some family game nights, both inside and outside. That's kind of a long-term goal with developing some of these classes. There's also the Monday painting class, watercolors, and a chair yoga and a meditation class still. So a seniors in balance. And if there's any instructors out there that would like to propose teaching a class, we are always welcome to take proposals. Corte Madera Children's Center, you heard the item update in 3C. After school enrichment classes. Right now, Erin is actively gathering all the proposals and entering them into our Rec Pro, which is our registration system. We are planning for fall already. Welcome to summer. We're planning for fall. We're going to be having those school menus ready and emails and marketing out to returning participants, as well as sending hard copies home to elementary school kids that first week of school year. And those programs will start in September. So we'll give a couple weeks of extra registration for people receiving those in person. Adults with developmental disabilities, our Rec Inc. programs, also run by Erin. They're doing great. They're doing as many in-person classes as they can and activities. With the recent ups and downs with COVID, they did have to change some things and go virtual again, but they are trying to do the regular dances. They just had a sports and games night and a regular Lions meeting for their own. And we always want volunteers. So we've had our co-chair Janowski come and be a volunteer on their basketball night. So always looking for volunteers, whether it be families coming down together or individuals or sending your high school kids to come down. We're looking for those volunteers. Measure A passed, the park funding passed in June election. So we will be getting, I can't remember what the breakdown is, like a half of a quarter or something like that percentage, but it really makes a big difference to us from sales tax. It's what we've fully funded the repurposing of the basketball court in Town Park in 2019. And it was thanks to those funding that we did most of the dog park in 2020, as well as all of Skunk Hollow Mini Park, replacing all of that play equipment. So Measure A does really make an impact. And we're able to we're not forced to utilize those funds per year. We can add them and have them accumulate and then really accomplish a project like Skunk Hollow, for example. And then summer events. We're trying to roll out everything. I'm really excited about our movie nights. I know I've alluded to, we've got surprises for the kids and it's so hard for me to keep surprises, but please come to the movie nights because you won't be disappointed. And so really, we hope that everybody is focusing on our July activity calendar. So if you haven't already chance to look at it, just kind of circle some things that look interesting to you. And we hope to see you there and ask me any questions about that. And that is the summary for the director's report tonight.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move on to commissioner reports. Update from recent town council meetings. Commissioner Miles is out tonight, so she had the May meetings, and Sarah, you had June.
I did. I was not able to attend in person, but I watched both meetings on YouTube. So the June 7th meeting is the annual budget review, which I get to watch every year.
Lucky you.
Yeah. A couple of things related to Parks and Rec came up. Our town manager, Todd Kuzmano, pointed out the fact that our senior and youth programs, I think they were given a budget number of $150,000. And he said he wanted it known that that's more of a placeholder and that they really want to develop these programs. And so if we have programs that are worthy, then they are looking to go ahead and give more money to those programs. So $150,000 is kind of just like a placeholder so that we know that we have some funding, but to, if we can develop other programs, that there's more funding available potentially. He also talked about, and I think it was our mayor, Fred Casisa, sitting here, who brought up the fact that a lot of the Parks and Rec budgeting comes out of the rec fund, except for the salaries, which are listed separately. So it can look like the Parks and Rec department is in the black, but when you add in the salaries, we're actually running at a deficit. So they wanted to make that more transparent so that it's easier to see how the department is doing as a whole. So I think there was some restructuring of that in the budget. Then there was a letter that I believe was sent to all of the commissioners as well from the Sierra Club about turf fields and concerns there. So that was in public comment as an email. And then on the June, I believe it was June 21st meeting, Ashley gave her presentation on Parks Make Life Better Month in July of this year. And it was a great presentation with the calendar that she's put together. And that was adopted by the town council. And I think it was, the way you presented it, I really appreciated. And I think it's a great idea as a way to get people to see these programs as an essential part of the community, an essential need, which is very true. And then there was another budget item that came up where Fred brought up, if there's any surplus in the Parks and Rec budget, can we keep it in the Parks and Rec department? And Todd said, no, it goes back to the general fund. And then the town council has the ability from there to kind of redistribute it and decide where it goes. Not sure if I missed anything else, but that was kind of the gist of it.
Can I ask about just that last statement that you made about it sort of being absorbed back into the budget with what I think it was Ashley had just said about sort of rolling over Measure A funds for projects like Skunk Hollow, and they might be completely consistent. I wasn't quite sure I understood them, how they work, or if it is different. Measure A is dealt with something different than what we were just talking about.
Yeah, Measure A is a separate fund. It's outside of the general fund and the recreation department, the rec fund. So we've got a couple of different avenues for budgeting within our department that serves our department. We also have the Recreation Capital Fund, which was originally kind of like a rollover fund that had come from, I don't know whether it's donations or a percentage of every registration. So right now, based on how our childcare is going and that we're turning our department around to be a little bit more self-supporting, there has been discussion on ways that we can keep the money and keep cycling it back through our department. So that's what we addressed a little bit earlier and touched on, but no decisions have been made on that yet at this time.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the Executive Advisory Committee.
Okay,
Emily?
all right. On June 2nd, we did a Zoom call with Lisa Klein from Raising the Bar. They are a nonprofit that works around education of basically trying to change the norms around the consumption of alcohol by adults at youth sporting events primarily. They're partnering with some like sports clubs in Marin and trying to get people to basically sign a contract that you will not have any alcohol present at your sporting events. And we completely support the idea of, the importance of parental modeling when it comes to youth drinking, but we felt that there might be some issues with us doing that at the park because there are adults at the park that might have alcohol at their events. But we were definitely in support and told her that we would support the communication to parents and participants in our Corte Madera soccer program about, the importance of parental modeling. So it's obviously an important topic and important to educate parents on, the modeling and the impact it has on youth drinking. So that's how we left it with them.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. Programming. Is there an update from the programming subcommittee?
We did not meet.
Okay, how about community engagement?
We didn't meet either.
Okay. And you've just heard the big update from the master plan subcommittee.
You definitely met. You met.
Okay, are there any individual commissioner updates or comments? Okay, then we'll move on to routine and other matters. First, a discussion of potential future agenda items. In July, we will reorganize the commission with some commissioners rolling off and new commissioners joining us. So that will be a topic. Are there any other topics that people would like to put forward for consideration for July? Okay. Town council meetings, upcoming council meetings, I see noted that July and August are to be announced. Does that mean that they may not happen?
It means the commissioners that were assigned those spots.
Oh,
will be
okay.
leaving us.
Oh, TBA from a commissioner standpoint.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's
So
what we do really need to juggle these around so that we don't have commissioners assigned to budget hearings on an annual basis. So we'll work on that.
should we just plan to push everybody forward
We
2
have-
months for
We
the?
have one meeting scheduled. We canceled our July 5th council meeting. We have a meeting on July 19th, and we canceled our August 2nd meeting, and we have a meeting on August 16th. So if you would like to consider maybe assigning one commissioner to handle both of those meetings or splitting it up somehow, we can make note of that. And
I would just nominate myself to move forward since I'm in September. And if the other commissioners are amenable, move everybody up and then we can backfill
okay.
the back if people are okay with that. Okay. Okay, and that brings us to item 8, recognition of outgoing commissioners. Do you want to start with something, Ashley?
Sure. It's an honor to thank our outgoing co-chair, Emily Janowski, for her 4 terms, 8 years on the Parks and Recreation Commission. A true survivor.
Yes.
So we just really appreciate your time and dedication. That's a lot of meetings. I didn't do the math on how many meetings that was and how many hours that possibly could have been in addition to executive committee meetings and other dialogue. But you've touched a lot of different facets of Parks and Recreation from previous programs and projects that you've worked on to being on my recruitment panel. So I thank you and I appreciate you personally and your wisdom that you've shared with me onboarding me and being the consistent. Both you and Mayor Casisa have been a great support and resource, and I just thank you. It's a very big accomplishment.
Thank you.
But I think we have a couple of, we have the mayor and at least another commissioner that would like to say a couple of things, and I have some flowers and a little gift for you.
Thank you. And then I want to say something.
So I'll let them speak first, and then we'll present you, we'll shower you with your gifts, and then you can speak.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Rod. So I want to thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, your sense of humor, your historic knowledge, but your vision for the future. You've always been such a good voice of reason and reflection, but very focused on decision-making and moving forward and thinking about what could happen, what is possible. You've been an incredible role model for me. Everything from when do I use the gavel to
Don't follow me on any of
how
them.
is this supposed to operate? It's just been such a pleasure to work alongside you and to learn from you, and you will be missed because your passion for Parks and Rec and for the town in general just is exuded in every meeting and every interaction. So thank you so much.
That's really sweet. Thanks, Louise. It's been great working with you too.
I'm going to wear 2 hats as mayor and representing town of Corte Madera and town council. I just want to thank you for all your years of service. Greatly appreciated. We will have a proclamation read at one of our town council meetings in either July or August, depending on how our agenda is set.
Oh,
But again, appreciate all your hard work there. And from a personal note, I served with Emily, I think for 4 or 5 years. I was chair, she was co-chair, and I just appreciate everything you did. I'll echo the comments that Louise said. Tonight, when you were smiling at me about the whole money thing, I started thinking about the old days. pre-Ashley, by the way, because she's great. She was a great hire. But I remember when we couldn't figure out where the money was coming from, where it was going. Projects were just done haphazard. We approved the shade structure at the playground and they hit water. And it took like 3 months for that. But one project really comes to mind you're really instrumental in was a skateboard park. You were able, I call them the skateboard kids. You were able to get them together, the parents together, the town together. And we were going to that town council meeting within 5 minutes, that project was approved. I think that just summarizes everything that you've kind of done, collaboration, partnership. So you'll be missed, but everybody has your phone number. Because one thing I learned, the most important thing about sitting on a commission, it's the background and the history, which a lot of people don't have, but Emily's got a ton of it. So thanks, Emily, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate that. And I've already told Ashley, I do, I'm always willing to give background information on things like that. But just quickly, I just want to say, really, it is surprising that because these last 2 years on Zoom, I thought it was only 6. And then I was counting back, I'm like, no, 2014. I'm like, oh my God, the 2 on Zoom. Really, one thing I always try to live by is leave it better than you found it. And what Fred just alluded to, I mean, the commission is in such a great place right now with our commissioners and our new commissioners. And the department is just 100% being able to expedite the hiring and finding Ashley and interviewing Ashley and bringing her on board. I mean, the way you have mentored your staff and brought in great people, the department is so much stronger than it was, and the ability to get things done while still frustrating to someone like me who's very impatient, at least the process has been there, and Rebecca obviously does such a good job. So, I mean, you can always call me with questions, but I know you guys will do great, and probably everything will just, there'll be new, who knows what, I don't want to say, I don't want to say anymore, but anyway, it's been great.
Any other comments before I give her some recognition tokens? This one's still on. Okay, so first of all, we have a card from our department. And then because it's not necessarily condoned by our department, I did buy you personally a very brightly colored bottle of bubbles as a parting gift from myself, because the color, it just reminded me of you because it's bright, it's fun, and it's personable, and I hope you enjoy it.
I will.
And then flowers.
Oh, thank you. And I'm wearing black tonight. This isn't like me. Where's my bright color? This is somber. Oh, thank you, Ashley.
And the flowers weren't on the table because we didn't want to block anything.
Oh, those are beautiful. Thank you.
And then also a great accomplishment, Lucy, thank you very much for representing the youth voice. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better and have your presence on Zoom. And thank you for hanging in with us on Zoom. I know it's been a really hard and challenging time during COVID, especially for our youth in our community. Been in school, you've been out of school, you've been in school, you've been out of school. It's been a lot, and we really appreciate you hanging with us. And we have a certificate for you. I'll come up and present that. A special pin.
Thanks so much, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy. Of course.
I just want to say thank you so much for all my fellow commissioners that helped me, especially during COVID. It was extremely difficult to kind of like build yourself into a community over Zoom. And I just really appreciate it, especially like my co-commissioner Janowski, who called me personally, and it made me feel really included. And I am really blessed with the opportunities everyone's given me. Thank you.
So with outgoing, we also have incoming. So that will move us to the oath of office for our two new commissioners coming on and our re-upping commissioner.
And if Alexandra is okay with it, we'll redo yours over audio, so I get the audio, and then I can send a link to the video to your parents. Yes, taking me out. We'll make sure the mics are on, and then you can repeat after me, please. I state your name.
Alexandra Poretz,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you for your service. You do, yes. There's that, there's that. Oh, it's right there.
This works.
Okay, so my plug is up. Oh, man.
Okay, if there is nothing else, the next regular meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission is scheduled for July 25th, 2022, and this meeting is adjourned. You should do it.
All right,
You
here
should
we
do
go.
it,
Everybody.